So part of the Co-flourishing Project is to look at these practices that we might call co-flourishing practices and make them more known in mainstream culture so that they receive wider adoption. So it's a bit of a research project also for me to dive into these practices and explore them. And I think they happen in three, at least in three categories. It's about, you know, my own flourishing and co-flourishing with the multiplicity that I am, right? With the multiple parts that I have within me. How can I co-flourish with those? It's co-flourishing in relationships, and it's also co-flourishing with the planet and life itself, right? I can if I can share a bit more. So I went
Oh,
to
please.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, please. Yeah.
I think I also want to look. I work a lot with organizations and leaders and think about how to build an organizational culture that might be emblematic of co-flourishing. And one organization that I think is really a great example is the monastery Plum Village that Thich Nhat Hanh actually founded, the person who coined the term into being. And so I went there and just explored how they do things over there. So, and it's interesting because they, of course, they have their own way of flourishing on the spiritual path, right? So they meditate, they do all their practices. But for Thich Nhat Hanh, it was very evident that you can't do this by yourself. So he says the
Mm.
most important spiritual duty of a monk, even before any meditation and rituals or whatever, is to build community, is to build a Sangha, a Buddhist community. Because without the Sangha, without the Buddhist community, your mind of compassion will wither. So you need, even for your own, and it's a beautiful example of interbeing, because for your own path towards enlightenment, for your own spiritual growth, you need the community. And without the community, you can't achieve that type of abundance, right? So we can only do it together. And when I came to Plum Village, I interviewed the monks, the monastics that I met there, and I obviously also read a bunch of books that are available on the practices that they have, and they have a lot of practices of preventing or transforming conflict. One of them is watering the flowers. So it's also a communal practice of first sharing what is really beautiful, what you perceive as beautiful, that is watering the flowers, and then also expressing your pain that you have, right? And it's not even necessary that there's a direct response to that. It's enough that the container of the community receives that message and can hold that pain, and then there's trust that this can have an effect, right? This awareness, because people are listening with compassion, with the intent to reduce suffering in the community. And they have other practices too, and they do Dharma sharings, which is, I think, one of the key ways in which humanity has to kind of come back to a very basic practice of co-flourishing. It's just sitting in a circle and talking about your emotions and listening with an open heart, you know. So how
Yeah.
often do we actually do that? Which was a basic practice for all of humanity until we kind of lost our way. Just sitting in a circle and sharing what's actually there.
And this is this year now that we're into January 1st, towards the end of last year, I was hosting conversation groups that were doing just this.
Mm-hmm.
And I even notice in my personal life when I have friendships or relationships where we do just share what we're experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
nobody has to do any, like,
Yeah.
sorry, people can listen. There's lots, sorry, that's me looking at it from,
Mm-hmm.
listening is almost inactive, if you know what I mean. But like truly paying attention to somebody, being present with them,
Mm-hmm.
that does a phenomenal
Mm-hmm.
amount without us even having to open our mouths.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost goes in complete contradiction probably to how I lived the first 30 to 35 years of my life, where somebody says something and I probably tell them it's all going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how you can fix it,
Right.
and
Exactly.
and that does so little,
Mm-hmm.
versus what I've seen, just this sitting, sharing,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really beautiful, I think, about sharing our inner experience or our stream of consciousness sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't revolve around having even to share our deep traumas.
Mm-hmm.
There's such an incredible intimacy, I think, that is created from
Mm-hmm.
just sharing what is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And for that to happen, you need the others to be present in a certain way, right? So you
Mm.
can generate that experience for yourself and by yourself, and it's still so deeply nourishing to have that experience, and it's one of the basic needs that we have as humans, is to be heard and to be seen, to be understood by others.